In The Invisible Man, 2020, a young woman played by Elizabeth Moss tries to escape from her abusive, controlling to the point of madness husband, and is relieved to find out that he killed himself after she left him, but her relief soon turns to terror when she begins to suspect that her husband did not die, but has found a way to become invisible. I couldn't tell you how many times The Invisible Man has been remade over the years. I don't know how this new film rates when compared to previous versions. All I can do is judge it on its own merits. And on its own merits, it's pretty good, but it has some issues that do hold it back from being better than that. The acting is strong. I'd say the cast is very good, but this is really an Elizabeth Moss vehicle, and everyone else is clearly secondary. That doesn't have to be a bad thing, though. She carries the movie just fine, except for one or two scenes that should have been scary, but instead were unintentionally funny, but that was really more a fault of the script than the acting. It's also shot very well. I was half expecting this to be a run-of-the-mill cliché jump scare fest, but it's really not. It's actually more of a suspense movie, and the few jump scares they do go for are surprisingly effective because they don't overdo them like a lot of scary movies tend to do these days. They work hard to earn those jump scares, they let the suspense build up properly, and the scares feel like the payoff for that build up like they're supposed to, instead of a crutch the movie leans on way too often because it thinks lame scare tactics are a substitute for good writing and direction. Speaking of, the direction is pretty spot on. There were a couple of those long, one-take shots here that were really nice, and would have been even more impressive if 1917 hadn't just raised the bar so much for that type of stuff. There's nothing here on that level, not even close, but for a relatively small-scale movie, I was still impressed with what they pulled off. I just wish they'd done a little more of it, because for a movie called The Invisible Man, there's actually not that much of the Invisible Man here. Not as much as you might think, anyway. The scenes where he's doing things are legitimately tense and creepy, but the movie seems a lot more interested in what happens afterward. Like, the Invisible Man will show up and do something. More often than not, it'll be a really good scene. And then we'll spend the next 10, 15, 20 minutes focusing on Elizabeth Moss's reaction to what he did. And I'm not even saying that's a bad way to go. I think it actually works quite well, and Elizabeth Moss does a great job with it. But there are times when the movie feels more like an Elizabeth Moss acting showcase than a movie about the Invisible Man. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, I just thought they'd want to get more use out of the thing the film was supposed to be about. And this is the part where it kind of falters, because the movie is so intent on Elizabeth Moss being the protagonist and the Invisible Man being the villain, that we don't really learn anything about him. Frankly, this isn't a movie about the Invisible Man. It's about the Invisible Man's wife trying to get away from him because of reasons that we're only told about but never see, and not because he's invisible. The movie definitely works hard to tell us how horrible this guy is. He beat her, he tried to control every aspect of her life, and so on. But the audience was never privy to that stuff. We only hear about it after it happened. It's like the filmmakers forgot that show don't tell can still be a thing, even when you can't technically see a character. And I do understand what they were going for. They didn't want to actually show this guy until they absolutely have to show him, because that'll make it scarier. And to an extent, that does work. But it's also a double-edged sword, because this isn't like the xenomorph in Alien. This is a human person who's supposed to be a character in his own right, and all you've done is tell us how horrible he is, and ultimately, that feels like it's all he is. That's the problem. The Invisible Man doesn't feel like a character here. He's just a one-dimensional, albeit fairly creepy villain that the movie bends over backwards to demonize as much as possible. I would have preferred they try to flesh this guy out a little bit instead of just calling him a villain because he's an abusive, controlling, evil man. Something else that hampers the story is the third act. The climax begins in a mental institution, and the sequence there is easily the best part of the movie, the most exciting part of the movie, but just when it's getting really good, it kind of sputters out and goes for a more small-scale, intimate conclusion instead that feels kind of anticlimactic, and then the movie keeps going for another 20 minutes, and they do it again. And it's not poorly executed, but I kept wanting them to finish with a bang and do another action scene, and I won't spoil it, but they kind of take the opposite route, and then the movie ends very quietly. And in terms of the arc for Elizabeth Moss's character, I guess it works, though it does rely heavily on her doing something that she probably shouldn't have been able to do, but I was hoping for a finale that was a little more explosive and was left feeling a bit deflated when it was over. The Invisible Man is not a bad movie. Elizabeth Moss does a great job, it's tense and creepy when it needs to be, and there are very few things I would call genuine missteps here, but it's held back by the focus not really being on the Invisible Man, to the point that he feels more like a shark in the water than a character. That works in movies like Alien or Jaws, but when your villain is a person, you kinda need to treat them like a person, and I don't feel like that was ever a priority. He's so thinly drawn, he feels like he got shortchanged in a movie that's supposed to be about him. So, in a weird way, it's as if the most interesting aspect of the film was the part the filmmakers were the least interested in. Maybe if there had been more of a 50-50 split in terms of the attention given to Elizabeth Moss and the Invisible Man, that might have been better. As it is, it's mostly on Elizabeth Moss. And it's not bad, it's just not as good as it could have been, and instead of a movie about the Invisible Man, it ends up feeling more like a movie about a domestic abuse victim whose abuser happens to be invisible. Guys, let me know what you thought of this review in the comments below. Ding that bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you'll always know when new videos get uploaded. And please give it a like, share, subscribe, and make sure you're still subscribed, because the only thing more transparently evil than the Invisible Man in this movie is the YouTube algorithm. Guys, it's very important that you make sure you're still subscribed. I've been getting a lot of messages lately from people saying that they were unsubscribed from my channel and they didn't even realize it. So always take a second and make sure. That's all for now, but stick around and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, over. Out.